Hey, welcome to another episode of Jones Insurance. Me and Beth are going to talk a little bit about business owner policy, or what they refer to as BOP policies. BOP policies are generally mom and pop type policies for small businesses. They combine protection for all major property and liability risk in one package insurance policy. It assembles the basic coverage required by a business owner in one bundle, and it's a lot easier a lot of times to be able to get this type of a policy for your smaller shops. Of course, a bigger business is going to need a commercial auto policy or a commercial policy, and we'll talk some about that at a different time. But Beth, you've sold a couple of these, I think, in the past, maybe, or something. No, any input you want to add to it?
The biggest thing is if you think, if you're asking yourself, do I need, a BOP? Then the answer is probably yes.
Yeah, if you own any type of business, or if you're renting a business space or workplace or something like that, chances are this is what you have or what you need. If you don't have insurance, but it'll cover your general liability and commercial property if you have any, and your liability limits and stuff like that inside of the business owner policy. So a couple other things that it does. It'll cover, so it typically covers, normally it's named perils, I think, but typically it's fire, explosion, wind, vandalism, smoke damage, and some offer open peril, or what you'd call all risk policies and stuff like that. So it just depends on the needs of the business owner and what their business is, what type of business they run, and so what their needs are and that kind of thing. The property coverage for a BOP usually includes the building, so whether it's owned or rented, additions in progress, or any outdoor fixtures. You'll find some that have tables and maybe some type of other fixtures that are outside. Sometimes they move them in and out, sometimes they stay outside, but those can be covered as long as they're within 100 feet of the premises. So some kind of outbuilding or something like that may be covered also. It covers any kind of business interruption. So if for some reason, some of the BOP policies paid out during the COVID, where business was lost and different stuff like that. So it helped to cover that kind of stuff and kept some businesses in business so that they didn't close their doors long term or anything like that.
Another interruption would be if they're doing construction on the road and nobody can get to your business because of that construction. Yep. Say another business collapsed or whatever. Anything that causes it where people can't come to your business is pretty much covered under that interruption.
Maybe even utilities type stuff and things like that.
I think the utilities too
would be covered.
I just took a CE and I remember most of it.
Those are always good at helping us familiarize ourselves with the products and stuff like that too. Let's see, I got something here that talks about some things that are not covered though. So manufacturing companies generally, so if you manufacture something you're going to need a commercial policy. Bars and grills, places of amusement like amusement parks and things like that are not going to be covered. Banks or financial institutions are not covered. And then self-storage facilities, things like that are not going to be covered. And parking lots, garages, things like that are not going to be covered either. You'd need a different type of policy to cover those. And let's see, yep, that's the biggest thing on those. Some things that it does cover though, it'll cover claims from a lawsuit, protects the physical components of the business, such as the inventory, any type of equipment that they have, and then of course the building itself, like we talked about. And so it covers third-party bodily injury. So if a customer or something's at the business and they get hurt on the property, that general liability would cover that, help pay for medical and legal expenses in the event of a lawsuit. Did you want to hit something on the liability piece?
Yeah, I know you kind of touched on it briefly as far as like third-party bodily injury and stuff, but you know, I just think that if you're working directly with a customer, you definitely want to get some type of coverage. You know, even if it's just for the liability standpoint, say you don't have a lot of equipment or things that can be stolen or damaged, the liability itself is fairly important. What was it? I think a few years ago in Texas, there was a photographer and she did wedding photography. And one of her clients, they didn't read the contract fully, which happens a lot.
Imagine that.
And they ended up doing kind of like a smear campaign on this woman's business and almost destroyed it. But luckily, you know, she had to take them to court. Luckily, she won. Most of the time, they don't. But, you know, I'm sure her insurance stepped in and kind of helped with those, the lawsuit costs and all of that stuff. And I know recently here in this small town, which happens a lot in small towns, a woman went to a hair salon. She didn't like how they did her hair, and she put it on social media. And next thing they knew, like the whole thing blew up. It had over 500 shares. People who had appointments with other stylists in the salon that weren't related to this incident at all, people were calling and canceling their appointments with them. So I'm hoping they had some type of coverage that would help with those type of
So that's
losses.
would that be covered under the advertising injury? So that hits if somebody sues a business or an owner or employee for any kind of advertising or slander or libel or something like that.
Right.
So there's generally a coverage for that.
Yeah.
Kind of
So
stuff
like slander and defamation is a big one as well. I just think is really important, especially in the ages of social media and everybody going on there to talk about this experience or that experience and it negatively impacting businesses.
Yeah, we break away from me. I saw the ambulance. I was so we just haven't gotten the police yet, right? I mean,
no,
I'm sorry,
police.
the fire department. Fire department, and we've hit everything as far as donuts today. That was fun. All right, so give me a minute. We go back. All right, so the third party, we already talked a little bit about that. Third party bodily injury, but third party property damage. If yours is done, if your business has anything to do with where the person's property is actually damaged by the business, it could be covered. And then product liability, if you distribute or sell something and it causes something like it wouldn't have been necessarily been one of these, but so some of those cell phones that used to at one time were exploding the battery and that kind of thing,
like in people's pockets and stuff.
So a business owner policy, it wasn't covered from the manufacturer side, but maybe a small business that was selling a component or something like that, maybe like these vapes or something like that. If something like that were to catch on fire or something and destroy a customer's product, like it burned up in their pants or something, right? So it cost their pants. Stuff like that could be covered under a BOP policy. advertising injuries, and then the business property. So, you know, if the business property itself was damaged or something like that, a BOP policy could step in and help cover some of that kind of stuff. Some things that it doesn't cover, you're looking at auto insurance, you're looking at workman's comp. It wouldn't cover health insurance for employees or something like that. You'd have to have a different type of policy. And it doesn't cover professional liability. And professional liability would be doctor, lawyer's office, something like that, to where you know, something they did or said, you know, like an errors in admission policy or something like that, would have to step in for professionals that do contracts and different stuff like that, or you know, a lawyer or something. If they gave bad advice, that's a different type of insurance, so it wouldn't cover that. And it's for small to mid-size, and got a guideline for kind of up to what I want to say was pretty high as far as like how much business you do, like around 6 million. A lot of them will cover up to. So
I believe it's 6 million.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 6 million. And so it's generally a building up to 35,000 square feet and up to $6 million in gross sales. So that's it's a pretty decent sized business that a BOP will cover up to. And packaging those together, you generally get a lot better deal than you do on a commercial policy. So it's a big benefit if the business qualifies for it. And otherwise, a commercial package policy, you generally run a little bit higher, but you get to pick and choose the different options you want in those type policies. And theirs are generally for a much larger business, and it tailors to their needs depending on what you know, what type of business they have. Okay. Anything else you want to add to it?
Not necessarily. I think I covered the big part that I wanted to go over.
Okay. So another list of items not really covered. So money itself, securities, if they're at the business, illegal goods, of course.
Right.
So illegal products or something like that, if you have that there. Aircraft, automobiles, I mentioned already. Watercraft, outdoor fences, antennas, and detached signs. Papers and records and stuff like that are not necessarily covered. And then animals, except for animals boarded. So like if you got a pet store or grooming type business or something like that, unless it's animals in the course of the business, they wouldn't necessarily be covered. But there are a lot of other things that are, and so there's some additional coverages that can be purchased along with it. And so debris removal, so if there was a fire or there was something that messed up or damaged the business itself, you know, there's some debris removal coverages. You can get collapse, or if the building collapse or anything like that. Water damage is another one, and there's some other add-on type things that can be added on to the policy also. But those are the main coverages.
Right. And I think it's important to like be transparent with your insurance agent. That way they can kind of help you decide what's best as far as like the additions that we were talking about and figuring out what exactly will cover all of your assets and business.
And there's generally some difference in deductibles. So you can get basic deductible is normally $500 per occurrence, but there's other options. You can go lower deductible at $250. You can go to $1,000 or up to like $2,500 on a deductible. And of course that impacts the price of what it'll cost. All right, still talking a little bit about the business owner policies. I'll tell you from experience, we've had some things covered in our businesses. We've had a business broke into before, and it come in and it helped to pay for some of the items that were damaged, some items that were stolen, and stuff like that. And so, business owners policy can definitely be a big help if something like that happens. It helps to take care of some of those unforeseen things that can pop up out of nowhere and take you by surprise. So highly encourage you, if you're running some type of business or something like that, or you're interfacing with customers, to have some type of a business owner policy. Like I said, generally the business owner policies that give you a lot of different coverages for a lot cheaper than getting a commercial type policy. Some statistics that we found that are out there: 90% of small business owners aren't quite sure if their business is adequately insured. And that's where Beth mentioned, when you talk to your agent, nobody knows your business quite like you do.
Right.
So if you discuss what your business is about, the different things that you have going on inside of your business, it's a little easier to be able to figure out what types of coverages that you need. Another statistic that's out there: nearly 30% of business owners say they don't have any coverage at all. That's really setting yourself up for a lot of liability right there. If you don't have any coverage, if somebody comes in, slips, falls, something like that, the chances are they won't be able to get their injuries paid by the insurance, because there's nothing there. So it's a large possibility that you'll be sued for that coverage. So generally, business owner policies aren't that much a month. And so, getting some coverage, and as your business grows, you want to look at it and make sure that you've got enough coverage, or you can adjust and add to that coverage. 53% of small business owners say their most significant barrier to buying insurance is they don't know which types they need. That's where it's, if you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, give us a call at Jones Insurance Agency, and we'll help walk you through some of that. We carry some business owner policies and stuff like that. Pretty much all of our business that me and my wife have are covered through here. We do have one that might be a little bit larger business, so it's not covered, but pretty much everything we've got right now is covered through here. Let's see, budgeting plan. Business insurance should be considered in the business plan. If you don't have the insurance budgeted into the business plan, you're definitely not going to have a lawsuit scheduled into it, because there's a lot more expenses when it comes to that. A lawsuit on the business is, chances are, if you don't have insurance coverage, could very likely close the business down. Because you're going to have, if somebody gets injured, that's you getting a lawyer, they've got a lawyer, and then whatever they get in the lawsuit is gonna, you're gonna have to cover that out of pocket. And oftentimes, the majority of us don't necessarily have that in the pocket to be able to cover that. So it talks a little bit more about some employee practice liability insurance, the EPL. You kind of spoke a little bit about some of that, I think, a while ago.
I think so.
And then you can get coverage for directors and officers or key employees or something like that. If something happens to those employees or directors or something like that, to be able to help the business and cover some added expenses from there. Business continuation, we touched on that a little bit earlier too. If for some reason your business, people can't get to you anymore, or something happened that shut the business down for a period of time, talking fiduciary liability and bonds. So depending on the type of business, a lot of times they're required to get a bond to be able to do business, and it just says that you're going to do the business that you say you're going to do. So it protects somebody who hires your business. So
I see a lot of that with like contractors or people who maybe like renovate your home, plumbers, electricians, people like that.
And it's good to ask if you're getting somebody to do work in your home, you know, hey, are you licensed, bonded, and insured? And if they're licensed, bonded, and insured, you know, hopefully their work is great.
Right.
But if their work's not great, then it can be covered and that kind of stuff. So you want to check on that. And then for other professionals, insurance agents, real estate agents, just other professionals of that nature, there's errors in admission. So if something's not right in the contract or something like that, where they make an error, it'll help cover that type of piece. And then now a big one today is cyber insurance. And I think that's one of the bigger ones that's probably growing right now. So you've got a company and you've got people's information and things like that, and so you want to make sure that that's protected. And a lot of companies now end up adding some type of cyber insurance to it, and to make sure that people can't get the confidential information of your clients and things like that.
Especially if you have like a website where they can buy stuff off of.
And it has any of their financial information, so like credit cards, banking information, just different things like that.
Right.
I think our bank told us the other day that bank fraud is up like 200 and something% this year or something like that. It was some ungodly amount. So, all right, I think that covers a lot of what we want to talk to you today about business owner policy. So a BOP. So if you own a mom or pop type of business, then if you're not covered, we highly encourage you to get coverage. And if you've got questions about it, don't hesitate to give us a call. We cover North Carolina and South Carolina, and we'd be happy to talk with you, walk through your needs, and be able to offer you some coverage. And today's what do we call this thing? A podcast, or what do we call this?
Podcast.
Is that what we call it? All right, so today's podcast is brought to you by Freedom First Outfitters, Second Amendment Haven, and so you can check them out online at freedomfirstoutfitters.com. We appreciate your time and attention today. If you would, like, subscribe, and share our podcast.